Welcome to the Raising Unstoppable Teens podcast. I'm Dr. Kimberly Shear, teen breakthrough expert, and I am passionate about supporting teens and their parents. And I'm so excited to have my guest, Laneice McGee, here with us today. Welcome, Laneice.
Hi, welcome. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited about being here today.
Oh gosh, I'm so excited to hear what you have to tell us about resilience, which we need to get through any type of adversity. And actually, studies have shown there aren't really conclusive studies on what makes one person more resilient than the other. But Laneice has some very good tips and life experience. So I'm excited to gain more knowledge in that area. But first, I would like to read her bio so that we get better acquainted with who she is and what she stands for. So Laneice McGee is from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, has over 16 years of experience working in the Department of Workforce Development. Currently, she serves as the district director. Congratulations, that's high up, for the Department of Workforce Development in, this is difficult for me to pronounce, Waukesha and Ozaki, is that right?
And Waukesha, Ozaki, yes.
Okay, and Washington counties. She graduated from Fisk University with a Bachelor of Arts degree in sociology and as a master's degree in human services from Springfield College. Laneice is the founder of Future Entrepreneurs Moving Ahead. Love that title. Yeah, it's nice. I just love it. Future Entrepreneurs Moving Ahead. This is an establishment that looks to motivate and spur youth to be strong, resource-driven, and goal-oriented entrepreneurs by providing mentorship programs. She is also the co-founder of Big, Beautiful, and Blessed, an organization that looks to promote positive self-image to young women through modeling, youth workshops, and seminars, Get Fit events, and much, much more. Laneice feels that this is not just about creating a name, but creating an impact, living life to reach others. I love that. Welcome, Laneice, once again.
Yay! Thank you. Wow. It's so weird sometimes sitting and listening to your own bio, but thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing your space today. I'm excited to just share my life and my lived experience with everyone. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate the work that you're doing.
Thank you. And I love your authenticity, and yeah, you are quite accomplished. So to begin, I would like to ask you, what were your teen years like?
Oh, so growing up I grew up in a single family home with my mom and then my sister who has a disability. And so my mom, I remember she worked 2 jobs. My mom was a hard worker. I remember when my mom worked 3rd shift. And so growing up, I just remember now looking back, remembering that, like, wow, we really had a struggle, and but my mother made it where she just gave her best and gave her all, where we wouldn't have to struggle so much, or we didn't realize the impact of what living from check to check, or living without, or why are we eating some of the same foods over and over again, things like that. So my mom did an amazing job with the resources that she had, with her just knowing my mom's background, growing up in an impactful youth, as a having her own struggles and then doing the best that she can as a mother. So my teen years were very difficult for me because I struggled with my identity. I struggled with loving myself and just being okay with who I was and embracing that. But some people are like, oh, I will go back to my teens. No, I've learned from that. I've grown from that, and I would not go back. But I'm grateful for every experience that has shaped me.
Yes, and I love what you said. I'm in full agreement. College years, absolutely. I would love to repeat because I loved all the learning and connections and research, because you're always, professors are right on the cutting edge of research. So that is all awesome. High school years, teen years, no. I'm glad they're behind me for sure, because it's just challenging.
Yes,
And tough things you're facing in addition to just dealing with everyday life. So but yeah, so we're survivors, and you're absolutely right. All those experiences, the good, the bad, and the ugly, so to speak, have all helped to shape who we've become today. And in that way, I also agree with you. I wouldn't change much of that, because otherwise I wouldn't be me and you wouldn't be you. So I like it. Awesome. Okay, so I love this question, and you are very authentic. I mean, that just immediately comes through, and actually warms my heart. I truly. So, but I want to ask you. I mean, that's hard to remain. It can be difficult to remain authentic when the world does want us to conform. So, how are you able to stand in your authentic voice regardless of maybe some pressures to conform?
Yeah, I think it's a constant learning curve for me. And so I'm to the point where I use my conscience as a thermometer. Mm-hmm. And so doing that has helped me to be more real with who I am and comfortable with that. And so if I can sleep at night, then I'm okay with the decision. If I can move forward, if what I have, the decision or how I'm choosing to live my life or the choices I have made, if it hasn't negatively impacted anyone else. I think that we should be free to be who we are and express who we are, as long as it doesn't impede on anybody else being free to be themselves either. So, I like to say, like, people always say there are certain conversations you never can have. You can never talk about politics. You can never talk about religion. You can never talk about sexuality, things that you can never talk about. Why? Because people want you to conform to how they think. And it has to be their way or no other way. And I think that if we learn to embrace that everyone is different, everybody lived experience is different, and you are free to be who you want to be, as long as it doesn't impede on me being the same way, then we can have healthy conversations. I can still love you and embrace you despite our differences, because we may be different on that area, but if we embrace that, we'll find out that in all these other areas, we are so much more alike. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the answer. Just really measuring your own consciousness, and then doing that. I think that helps us to really say, in the end, I have to do what's best for me, because you go to sleep with you every day. And so that's the person that you're going to wake up to at the end of the day as well. So being comfortable with those conscious decisions that you made.
I love that. I mean, so that was just, that response was very rich. I mean, my brain was going bing, 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 lighting up in so many different areas, because I think I love what you said about basically at the end of the day, we're the ones that are going to get up the next morning, and we either get up feeling good about the choices we made the day before or not, right? And so, and being more mindful, kind of who we are, and standing in, being empowered with that. But I loved what you brought up about politics, and no, I'm not going to get into a political debate. But I think that's a really good reference, especially in current, times. But what came to me was, even if we're completely opposed in our political beliefs, for example, and we're very convicted in our beliefs, that in itself, that conviction and wanting to stand in that is already something where we're in agreement with, if that makes
Right. I can honor your truth in that.
Yes.
I might not agree with it or whatever, but I can't disagree with what you truly believe in and what you truly stand for. And I can honor the fact that you're truthful with that. If I
Right.
can't do anything else, that I definitely can respect.
Right. And you don't have to conform to my way or expecting me to conform either. It's just being open to kind of receive that. And the other thing that where my brain was lighting up was really about kind of our differences and really being an allowance of that. And I think well, at least what came up for me in that moment was the difference between judgment, kind of concluding that something is the way it is, which is then putting up kind of a wall, for example, between you and I, versus looking at it like, well, that's your preference. I mean, it's not for me,
Right.
but it's your preference. And that's okay.
Yes.
And then I feel like it brings down some of those walls too. And I feel like we can see more common ground, as opposed to judging one another and making it about being right or wrong or good or bad or pretty or ugly or whatever it is. It's just
Why does something always have to be one or the other?
right.
It's like somebody has to be right, somebody has to be wrong. Well, no, not necessarily.
That's right. Right.
Mhm.
Right. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, so for things that you have experienced in your life, and maybe some of those things aren't real happy experiences, how did you go about forgiving yourself so
Mhm.
that you could reach a level of success?
Well, that's really a good question. So when I think about forgiveness, I think about how sometimes we need to extend that gift to people when they don't even know that they need it. I
Hmm.
remember times of receiving gifts or receiving information and like being so happy, like, oh, I didn't even know I needed this. Thanks. So when I think about forgiveness, a lot of times, the first thing is I have to forgive myself, always. Forgive myself for whatever the situation may be, whatever may happen, and whatever I hold on to that is a barrier for me moving forward. And then after I do that, then I can then extend that to someone else. And sometimes the other person doesn't even have to be involved in that equation at all.
Mhm.
Because because sometimes we're looking for an apology from people that we may never get, right? And sometimes we need to extend an apology that someone may never ask for, because how much energy are we spending on that?
Right.
So if I'm waking up and I'm thinking about it, I'm going to sleep and I'm thinking about it, every time that person's name comes up, I'm upset about it.
Mhm.
Then how is that producing a positive result in my life? When things are no longer producing that which I want to see, that means I need to forgive and release.
Mm.
If not for that person, for myself. And so that's really where I came to the point, like, how is this producing what I want most in my life? And if it's not producing that, then I need to come to the conclusion of how can I release it so that it's no longer becoming a barrier. And whether that means restoration of the relationship or release of it.
Mhm.
Either way, I have to forgive the situation so that I can move on from it.
I really like what you just said, and I think there was a quotable in there, because I've never heard it quite said this way. I do realize, obviously, when we get stuck or we stay in our story or play the role of victim or whatever it is, we're standing in our own way because we have other options available, other mindset options available. But I've never quite heard it, that forgiveness, that without forgiveness or whatever it is, that situation or the person, whatever it is that we just have strong emotions about, is actually a barrier to us moving forward. And that was the quotable. You said it that way, and I love that. It is a barrier. So the way to release that, get rid of that barrier is through forgiveness, whether it's of ourselves or someone else or the situation, the circumstance, right? So that was powerful. Yeah. Wow. That's cool. The other thing I want to share a little bit about something personal that happened when one of my daughters was in her late teen years. And she kind of left for the weekend, and it was a strained relationship. We were just going through some difficult times there. And I went to a forgiveness workshop. She didn't know I went to it. She has no clue. And we were instructed to do a meditation of forgiving somebody who slighted us. And sure, that person came immediately to mind. It wasn't my daughter. It was somebody else. But when I went into the meditation, that's when I saw my daughter's beautiful face. And I remember thinking, or just it came to me, I want to ask her for forgiveness of me and what I've done. And then, so it wasn't about forgiving her necessarily. That's not what came to me. It was about asking her. So I visualized all that. I also forgave her whatever, it was, just overall. I remember in my meditation kissing her forehead, saying, I love you. And that's how I ended it. That night, she returned home. And has been with me ever since.
That is so beautiful.
Powerful.
It sure is.
That's all the energy of.
Ooh, I got goosebumps. That's really, really good. Yes.
Yeah. So the power of forgiveness, and like you said, it's not even, you don't necessarily always have to be physically there to do it. It comes across anyway. Oh, wow. Okay.
Sharing that.
So tell us about a moment that you wanted to give up, but you didn't. So what kept you going?
Wow. Yeah, I have had several of those moments. Sometimes I still sometimes have those moments where I'm questioning what I'm doing, questioning the purpose, and is this worth the effort, the time, the energy, the resources that I am sowing into it. And so when I'm in those moments, I have to take a step back and go back to the basic question of, okay, why am I doing this in the first place? And how is me continuing to do this? How will this bear something good for me at the end, or something good for those who I'm doing, depending on what it is? What is the overall goal? And so just really centering myself back to that. I remember the organization Big, Beautiful, and Blessed. We're 7 years, and I remember, I think it was year 3, one of those, try to forget that year. Really, really hard year. And I remember crying, and I remember just different things coming up where not just only me saying like I shouldn't do it, but other people also sowing into those thoughts that I had already planted in my head. And so then what do you do when other people are already cheering on what you already been thinking? How do you then move past that? And so that was a hard year for me to decide, like, am I going to give this up? What am I going to do? Eventually I did take a year off to just really re-strategize. And I think I needed that. And so it wasn't really, sometimes we think of giving up as letting go. Sometimes giving up is giving up our plan of how we've always done it. Sometimes giving up looks different. Sometimes giving up is a beautiful example of saying, I'm sorry, extending forgiveness. And so I think that the beautiful thing about it is when we step back and we really look at why we're doing it in the first place. How is this beneficial? How is this birthing something new for me and for the people who are attached to me? then that gives you your reason why you should go, or if you should, if it was just had a time or a season, or if you just need to relook at it. And so that's kind of what I do when I'm in those situations. I try to remind myself, and then I intentionally, because again, just like those seeds are planted in my head of why to stop, I intentionally surround myself with people who have overcome. I will listen to podcasts. I will listen to different things to help me to make a decision that is best for me in that situation.
Ah, I love it. So again, overcoming really is being resilient. And what I heard with that is, one, really holding on to your vision, stepping back, looking at that vision. And then two, also, what motivates you, right, is how it's going to be of service to others, how it's going to impact you, how it's a win-win.
Right.
And that can kind of keep you going, but not to be afraid of, if you need, I don't know, like a timeout, so to speak, or or to think about maybe a different direction. And I liked what you said, because again, I'm a firm believer, and we all do this, but we have the vision, we have the goals. You work with, you help our youth become entrepreneurs. So I know this is probably part of what you teach, and make those step-by-step goals. And we have that action plan. And, and with that sometimes comes the, just almost, even if we're not conscious of it, but an expectation of how it will turn out.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's just letting, it's difficult. Sometimes we don't even realize we have the expectation.
Right.
But once we do, sometimes you're right, it could just be letting go of that, because a lot of times the results that we're seeking kind of show up in a way that we didn't expect, right?
Yeah.
So, and re-strategizing, I really like that, like stepping back and having a moment and just, thinking about, again, other options.
Yeah. Sometimes when you're working so hard in something, you don't get to work on it.
Yeah,
and
true.
that's why you have to step back, and so that you can see things in a different perspective, because we are tied to our goals and what we want to do. And sometimes in being so tied to that, you can lose sight of, okay, wait, let me step back and look at the bigger picture here. So that's really good that you pointed that out. So
wow. I love it. Resilience is like, gotta have it, but it's all these like little shifts, I guess, the small shifts that equate into a big shift, right? Or just stepping back to be able to see the whole big picture, the forest. So okay, let me see if we can squeeze in one other quick question, and then I'll get to how our listeners can stay connected with Laneice. I think this is a good one. On this journey, we encounter people, even people that we trust. Even sometimes they're in our support system, and they let us down from maybe in our point of view. How do you deal with the disappointment of the people you trust?
Oh my goodness, that is a consistent journey, because when you allow someone in your space and you trust them and they disappoint you or let you down, what have you, I think the first thing that we have to do is introspect before we expect. And so the thing about it is, did I communicate my expectations to them? Why am I disappointed? What actually happened to disappoint me? And did they even know that was an expectation that I have? Sometimes we have expectations and unmet needs that we don't even know until we're put in a situation and then somebody doesn't meet them. But we expect them to then show up that way. And so I think the first step is to look back at my communication. How did I communicate that? Did they know that was an expectation, or did I kind of just speak like I would like this, but wasn't very clear on that? And did they agree to the expectation?
Yeah, it's a good one.
Sometimes, especially with teenagers, let's just talk about teenagers for a minute. We could say, I want a clean house, but we didn't say, I expect you to clean your room every Friday. But then we mad because they're not cleaning their room, or, things. I mean, that's a simple example, but those unmet needs can cause disappointment in people that we care about, or it can just cause disappointment in people in general. So after I introspect, then I can do an expectation. And then I look at, how do I value this relationship? There's different, levels of relationships that we have with people. Is it someone that I'm going to encounter? If it's my mother, if it's my mate, if it's my child, this is very important to me. So we have to address this so that we have a positive moving forward. So that's kind of how I deal with it. I first deal with me and deal with exactly what the issue is, and not just, I'm angry, I'm hurt, but why am I angry? Why am I hurt? And was this effectively communicated? Because a lot of times it's a miscommunication, misunderstanding. And then when we are responsible enough for our feelings to share them with the person that we care about, then we can have real dialogue, and we can decide how we move forward.
Wow. There again were a lot of gems in that. And especially with parents and teens, I mean, I'm often the translator. But it's, the communication thing is just so interesting, because you're dealing with not only what you may think you're even clearly laying out your expectation, but it may land differently for that other person based on their own experiences or their own judgments, whatever. And then there's also an unspoken assumption. I liked what you said about, we all like a clean house. Maybe my teenager obviously knows that. So why is the room not clean? But it's like, was that ever really spoken? Was that boundary ever set? Was there, and sometimes we just assume, I mean, even teens, kind of because we're the adult and we're the parents, there's almost an assumption that we've heard them, or that we even understand them on a very simple level. I'm not talking about kind of the deeper things, because that does take more of a two-way communication, a dialogue. But I've missed things like that, and I know, when my girls were teens, it's like they just assumed, because I was the parent, that I just connected the dot from A to B, but I didn't, for whatever reason. So there's that miscommunication as well. So it's a tricky one, but if you are, I love what you said, you start with you first, the introspection, you take it a deep, you're going a little deeper with it than just, I'm angry or whatever. You're taking responsibility, and you're looking at the why and how you can improve it, so it doesn't repeat itself. Right. So, and then that makes it clear. And what I want to say, I mean, you're almost, by doing that, what I want to say, setting up the other person, those that we care about, to be successful in supporting us, and to have that mutual trust.
Yeah.
So beautiful. So how can our listeners get to know you more and stay connected with you? Could you please give us your website?
Yes, I would love to. Thank you. If you want to connect with me, you can go to my website at www.laneicemcgee.com. You can follow me on any social media with my name, Laneice McGee, and you'll find me on any platform that way as well.
Awesome. So again, your website is laneicemcgee.com?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And I am super excited because Laneice has my messaging, because in my brain I'm like, she was so generous, and then I'm like, say this free gift, so I'm getting jumbled up. But she did provide for our listeners a free gift, which is really, really cool because it's a quiz, and who doesn't love quizzes, with very excellent questions that will get you to think, but are simple and fun. So, but really, it's called Grab the Present, and I just love that. And then I'm just going to read what it kind of starts off with. Hey there, are you happy in your life? Are you living your life to the fullest? So what she is providing will help you to answer those questions for yourself. And there's also tips on there and just great things about happiness. And again, I think even it may not be saying resilience, but you know, we're all faced with different situations and circumstances. How can we stay present and happy even in the midst of those, or get closer to that? So anyway, I will post the link to be able to get that free gift in the show notes. So listeners, you will not want to miss this. It's an awesome gift. And like I said, it's a quiz too, so they're always fun. So, well, thank you
so much.
You're welcome. And thank you again for your generosity, your valuable time that you took away from your busy schedule to be here. I am so excited. And listeners, stay tuned for next week on the podcast, Raising Unstoppable Teens, for another guest expert, a mystery. Thank you.
Thank you.